Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life again this week. Episodes ago, I had Tawny Wolf here exploring the 10 terrains of consciousness. Today, I have the co-creator of that system, Alan Reed, with me. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Linda. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, I must say that I did take the quiz that's on your website, and I've read the report, and I found it fascinating. There was quite a bit of detail in it that really resonated, felt very accurate for me.
I guess to really begin the conversation, what we have to look at in this continuum of terrains that you can see above me, and for the listeners that are on audio, you can jump on our website at 10terrains.com, and you'll see this continuum of icons across the top. What this is really sharing is a story of our spiritual evolution, or another way to look at it is the degree of separation that we have created within ourselves from our infinite self. And so what we want to start with is this idea that we are one infinite, indivisible consciousness, the entire universe, every subatomic particle in every galaxy and every star. There's multiple universes. This thing is infinite. It's beyond what the mind can grasp, the human mind can grasp. The leading edges of science, of course, are confirming all of what the mystics and the enlightened have known, and it's now kind of coming together that, yes, everything is non-local. Consciousness is non-local. We are not even really here. These are kind of like avatars that we're sitting inside of as a spiritual being, having a conversation through the eyes and ears of the divine, if you want to see it that way. So it's really a brilliant way to reframe our relationship to ourselves. So with that idea in mind, that we are all of this one consciousness, what happens is that we start to, and this is because of trauma and beliefs and stories, it's kind of the story of the fall. What's happened is consciousness wanted to experience itself, so it went on a journey. And that journey was basically to experience itself in degrees of separation from itself. So if I were to hold my finger up, let's say here over by infinity, and that's the singularity that we all are, and I put this rubber band on my finger and I stretch it away, that's the separation from ourself that we're currently sitting in. At some point along this way, you can see this continuum behind me where we're at some degree of separation from that which we already are and always have been and always will be, because we are infinite and immortal. So with that idea in mind, why is it that we are sitting down here, perhaps at pyramid or at square or at diamond or at circle? And what's really fascinating to look at is what is holding us there. And what's holding us there is this idea that, well, when I have this rubber band just sitting on my finger, just loose, this is our natural state. If I could just hold that there like that. It's just surrendered, it's neutral, it's relaxed. There's no charge. There's no story, there's no trauma. We are really an electrical field. You know, if we look at quantum physics, we're an electrical field. We're in a bundle of energy. And this bundle of energy takes a form, just like our body has a form, and just like things materially and corporeally have form. We are essentially this consciousness in form. And so this form is sitting where it's sitting because of electrical charge. That's what's holding us together, and that's what's holding us along this continuum at some point. This entire universe is a fractal. So all of these principles are universal. I can apply them in any which way you want because they're universal principles. So we're sitting where we're at because we have taken on traumas that we have yet to heal. We have taken on stories that we're holding on to. We are holding judgments because, again, we're all one, but if we see ourselves as separate from each other and we judge each other as separate, oh, I'm better than you, I'm something different than you or whatever, now we're starting to separate from ourselves because there is only one indivisible self. And so anytime we create a judgment, anytime we have some kind of story, we're now pulling that rubber band away from that which we are in our hearts and inherently in our nature. And some of the conversation I wanted to share today was reintegrating civilization and nature, which is really my core passion. As a child, I was raised in the woods in Washington State. I was enlightened by the trees because I had a very troubled home environment, so I had to escape. And the trees and the animals actually took me under their wing, and I really understood our connection to life and to ourself at that point, and then got moved to Southern California where there were no trees. And there were just track homes for as far as you could see. And I could see everybody completely divorced from nature and living these little bubbles of track homes with cars and thinking that, you know, all the material bling was they'd made it in life. And I was like, oh my God, we have so missed the mark here. So my life's journey has been to what's it going to take to bring us back to ourself. And at that point, I had no understanding of spirituality or any of this to understand what got us here and what do we need to do to get back. And to get back to who we are, it's really a simple process. We are, as a body, a self-healing mechanism. If you cut yourself, your body knows how to heal itself. It doesn't need to be told what to do. And this entire universe, consciousness, because it's one singular system, it's one singular self with a capital S, it also knows how to heal back to itself. And so we naturally have the inclination as we heal the trauma, as we heal the charge, as we let go of the judgments, this thing naturally starts to relax itself back until when we finally find ourselves at a point where we're really just being, and we're in a state of pure being. Over here at this end, you're busy doing, surviving, trying to get through life. You think you're at, it's us versus them. It's all the stories you get in Polarityville. It's these are my enemies, these are my friends, allies. It's all of the Game of Thrones kind of stuff. It's all the corporate manipulation and maneuvering and the marketing. It's like, well, I've got to get people to be certain ways and do certain things. We're really acting as if it's something apart from us. And when you start to get more healed, I will say, you come to a point where you really start to just come to the purity of your vulnerable self and the authenticity of your heart. And you're just being who you are. And people feel that and recognize that and know that because that's who we all are. It's really the difference across these terrains is, fighting life on the one hand, trying to make things happen, and just being with yourself as life, as nature, because we are nature.
And I'm actually really glad that you started with that discussion about how we separated. If we are all one consciousness, one being, I guess a good metaphor that came to my mind would be if we're all a cell in the body of God, some cells don't recognize all the other cells and the level of consciousness of all the other cells in the body. They just kind of understand their own environment and the cells that they are.
Yes, that's really a good metaphor, actually, because these are parallel universes and they're basically filters on this one consciousness. So to use the metaphor, the liver cells, they're just sort of in their little liver world, doing what livers have to do. And if that were, say, the order-based terrain square, they're just doing what they do in order for what they think they need to get done or for what their job function is that they think they need to do. And so that's their focus. They're just really looking in that place and not really seeing what other cells are doing in the body because they really don't need to. There are, however, cells that do keep track of everything. And there's a sort of an electrical system that manages the cells that keep track of everything. And this is, I think, a key piece. All of these cells exist in a field. We exist in a field. Everything exists in this field. And so it's the field intelligence that's managing all of this. It's the field that's holding the trauma. It's the field that's holding the stories. It's the field that's keeping the liver as a liver. It's the field and whatever information is in that field is keeping you at these different terrains. And that information I would call filters. So these filters are degrees of separation. They're perceptual filters or perspectives and lenses like colored glasses that are keeping you from seeing the full picture. You're only able to see the picture that you're needing to see at this moment. And it's really important to get this because we are this conscious being as a totality, but you're sitting there as a liver cell. What is it you need to learn? What is the challenges you're facing? What is the gifts you're giving? Well, the liver is a vital organ for our survival. So that's a huge gift. Without a liver, we're kind of not going to go very far. But it has a lot of challenges. It's got a lot to clean up. We assault it all the time. Our livers really get hit. So it's got a lesson to learn as well in this.
And that's ancient wisdom. You know, the mystics told us, as above, so below. You have this kind of holographic pattern or fractal pattern that can be used to map the evolution of just about anything.
Just like, well, water can make infinite snowflakes, no two alike. These 10 terrains, they're like fingerprints, no two alike. Literally, they are a pattern, and it's a universal pattern. It applies to you in your individual life and where you're at in your relationship to yourself with a capital S. They apply to you as your relationships with your family, your spouse, your brothers and sisters, siblings, whoever. You know, so there's that going on. And then there's the community, there's, you know, the greater family, the neighborhood, the community. And then there's, of course, the nation you're in, the state, the nation. I mean, that's also a collective, you know, it has a prevailing terrain. The planet has a prevailing terrain. Different regions have prevailing terrain. So this thing goes all directions. Truly, as I've really deepened in this work over the many years I've been doing it, I'm really grasping the depth of this work as a full modern mystery school. It may look very simple on the surface. You've got this spine behind me here. It's like Occam's razor. It's the most elegant and simple model of consciousness that I've yet seen. And I've looked across the planet at everything out there and was finding that nothing was really answering the deepest questions I was having. And then Spirit sort of started showing this model, this understanding, and it just started to make sense, and it just started to be unfolded. So it's a revealed knowledge. The key is I've asked a question, and that's something I want to share with all of your listeners. Ask and you shall receive. You are infinite consciousness. It will not waste energy. It will only preserve its nuggets of wisdom when you ask and are ready. And when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And we hear these things all the time. Well, it's true. It's just how it works. The key is being sincere and asking the question. And I was in this journey I've mentioned of my life, sincerely asking, because I really wanted to get to the bottom of why the planet was in the state it's in. I now see why. I understand it. I'm quite at peace within myself now because I totally see how it's all playing out, who the players are behind the scenes, pyramid, the whole thing. This is quite a game. Consciousness, you really are having fun, aren't you?
And we're just here for the experience.
Exactly. I think most people are really trying to understand and struggling with their life. And so this will help to bring that peace of mind. They're struggling in their relationships. As you start to understand the shoes other people are walking in because of the world they're living in and the lens they're looking at the world through, you'll be able to have compassion for them. And that will ease and actually merge and bridge and unite the relationship much more closely. And then you'll start to understand our world as well, because you'll be able to start to see why things are happening the way they're happening. Each of these terrains are, again, their own lens, their own universe. And when you're in that universe, especially these more contracted ones, you can only see inside of your world. You're in a box, and you can only hear what you can hear inside of that world. The 10 terrains applies basically to every aspect of life, because it's just giving us a framework to understand who we are and why we're here. And to know thyself, really there's one way to know thyself is to really know where you're at, because it's a way to back into who am I. Each of these terrains has its own process for that. As the outer terrains, you're connecting to nature probably more viscerally outside of yourself. As you start to move within, you're starting to connect with the nature of yourself, both in nature and then more deeply within yourself and in your deeper nature, in your energetic nature, in your multidimensional nature. And then in the more cosmic sense in the fractal nature and the quantum field aspect of yourself. And then finally moving into the full unification and unity.
One of the things that I really appreciated from the report was the list of gifts that are inherent within a particular terrain, as well as the challenges. I think especially the challenges that helps us to really see our place in the fractal, so to speak. We're right there in that terrain, and these are the things we're here to learn.
Yes, you can't short circuit this. A lot of times people think, well, I'm just gonna, wave a magic wand or do a medicine journey or just go some meditation retreat and I'm enlightened. It's not that easy. You're being held there because there is something you have to let go of yet. And there's no shortcutting that process. There's actual work to be done here. It's not hard work.
But it can be hard work.
If you fight it,
Yes.
if you resist it, if you say, I'm in, I surrender, whatever terrain you're at, if you say, I'm in, I surrender, show me what I need to know. I'm open to healing. Show me what I need to know. I'm asking for guidance. Then the universe says, okay, and it'll bring you on this journey. But you have to basically be earnest and really humble, I guess, in some ways.
I guess it's just really important to really understand and trust that you are in the perfect place where you're supposed to be for what you're supposed to learn and what you're supposed to experience.
Always. And that's the hardest thing to get, that everything that's happening is perfect at any moment. Again, we're a collective tapestry. So all the craziness we're seeing happening, this is a fascinating example. We look at COVID and what's happened in this last year, and we see the shutdown, we see all of the chaos that's come about. We think everything is really going downhill. That's the ego. The ego's got its perspective and it's got its understanding of things, but the ego sees things 180 from what spirit sees. So spirit's looking at an opposite perspective always. I call it Reed's 180 rule. Everything's the opposite of what you perceive it to be until you have direct perception. And that's what's happening all across this continuum. So what we've seen is that if we're at the prevailing terrain as a culture in the US, in particular at Diamond, just at the Valley of Diamond, doing, being totally in the mind, trying to get caught up in technology and just really just divorced from ourselves. If it's going to try and kickstart, humanity to start the journey or get it moving on that journey towards circle, what's it going to have to do? It's going to have to basically stop the music so that everybody has to sit down. It's like musical chairs. Everybody's got to stop, and now everybody's got to sit with themselves. So in a way, if you look at it from a bigger spiritual perspective, the entire planet just got kind of jolted. The prevailing terrain just kind of got jolted toward the connection-based terrain circle. And that'll take some time, but the process has now started because people have slowed down. They connected with their families. It had an interesting silver lining that few observed, and it's been quite fascinating. So yeah, there is a perfection in it.
It's probably good to point out these terrains are not flat terrains. They have a valley and a mountain.
In a valley, you really can only see what's in the valley. If you're in a valley between two mountains, you just pretty much are only aware of what's in that valley. But there's also this idea of that there's an inertia. When you're in the valley of a terrain, you're at the low point. It's sort of like it's the place you can just sort of rest there and you can be in that valley and live in that world and explore that world. But in order to begin the process of going to the next terrain, it isn't just a linear thing, as you've indicated. You've got literally to mount an expedition to overcome this inertia. Life has got to create situations. You've got to have experiences and that have got to bring you up this mountain. It takes a lot of energy to get up there. And then once you're at the top, it's easier to go down the other side. You can see the other valley down at the bottom. The reason it's a mountain and a valley is because of the ego. You're overcoming your own resistance. If we didn't have egos, this rubber band would just snap back instantly like that. It's the egos that's keeping us here. It's the stories the ego's holding on to. It's the charge. It's the judgments. If we didn't have this ego thing going on, which is part of the design for us to get all this, and, you know, it's a perfect design, really. You look at consciousness like, well, hey, if I want to play with this, I've got to have certain things to resist against in order to have this to work. It's fascinating. So with the ego, yeah, that we got mountains and valleys and bundles of charge and all these things happening, and we have 10 terrains and everything. Otherwise, we'd all just be this infinite being, and that would be that.
Well, in the meantime, we get to enjoy our exploration of the terrain, or the few terrains that we get to traverse in our lifetime.
Yes, and it's a rich journey. Well, I want to make that very clear. It's nothing to do with what your ego thinks or wants. It's really about you and your spiritual development, and what serves that purpose, what's in the highest service of that purpose.
So the trick is not to judge where you are or where anyone else is.
Absolutely.
You know, Alan, a lot of people say that time is speeding up, or our ability to transform is speeding up. Do you think that it is a faster ride through the terrains right now?
Great question. Well, I'll just kind of throw this out there for beginners. There is no space or time. But apart from that, actually time is still constant. It's information that's going exponential. And so because everything's relative, the perception of time speeding up is really because it's like two planets passing each other. You know, they look like they're going faster, but that's just kind of a relative thing in perception. What's really happening is our information, you know, things are flying around the planet overnight now, people are viraling things out. So information is being passed around more and more quickly all the time. So that's what's going exponential. The time's just ticking along, but relatively speaking, it feels like it's really speeding up. But with that idea in mind, you really could sit in one terrain your whole life if that's the place you're to be, if that's the work you're to be doing, if that's the school you're to be in, because these are 10 separate mystery schools and they each have a deep learning. And so you could, for example, be an ascended master coming back to want to do some work at Square for the planet, and you could spend your whole life there and then come away with a deep body of work that you've gifted the planet as a result of spending your entire focus there. And all of these terrains have to be there in order for the whole tapestry to be in place. It can't exist without all of this. It wouldn't work. Again, that's that symmetry. But yes, you could spend your whole lifetime. You could go across these terrains in the blink of an eye if you had a near-death experience. And I actually know of examples of that where someone was at Square and they just, bang, they had a near-death, full death experience. All their charge dropped. They came back. No fear of death, no more judgment, no more stories, no more trauma, no more anything, because it was like Control-Alt-Delete on your computer, complete reboot. And so they went from square to infinity in the blink of an eye. We have that capacity as well. It could take forever. It could go very quickly. It's really up to you. And it's really up to your infinite self. And actually, it's not up to your ego. I'll say it's to you as your infinite self with a capital S. It's really a relationship between you and you as your infinite self. It's not about your ego making a choice or a decision here.
Alan, it's been my pleasure having you here today. Why don't you tell the listeners where they can take the quiz and how they can contact you?
Certainly on our website, 10terrains.com. That's TENTERRAINS.com. And there, as Linda's mentioning, we do have a quiz that we encourage you to take to begin learning where you're at in this journey, because it begins with you. And with that result, you can get a report that will give you a snapshot of where you are specifically along this journey. Our book, Introducing the 10 Terrains of Consciousness, Understand Yourself, Other People, and Our World, available at all bookstores, online, and of course on the website. You can have links to all of the major booksellers. That will give you an understanding, a comprehensive understanding of the entire model and the bigger picture. So between the report, which kind of gives you a sense of you very specifically in relation to this, and the book as an overall, you'll have a really good sense. Then, of course, we've got our YouTube channel, which we're adding to all the time. We've done a COVID series. It's a great place to start if you really want to get a sense of how each of these terrains perceives reality. We've looked at how each of these terrains look at the COVID situation, and it's quite fascinating to kind of journey through the eyes of each group of people to see how they're related to this. So certainly look for us on social media. All of these links and more are available on the website. So that's a great place to reach us at. And of course, we've got forms there for you to contact us there as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again. And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor.fm. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com and learn what energy medicine can do for you. Remember to like, comment, and share. And we'll see you again next time. Bye for now. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to stay informed of future episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. And feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear from you.